Merry Christmas to you and welcome back to my channel. Let Jesus Christ fulfills all our dreams and gives us a lot of happiness in our lives. This video is on MCO 07, Financial Management, and we will do a quick revision. Okay, and one thing like I would like to share with you. I always believe that there is an invisible hand that always follows you. Now it depends like how honestly you are doing your duty. And one thing more, there is no shortcut to education. It is just like an ocean. So with that note and without wasting any time, let's start the video and let's see the important questions that you should prepare for the exams. One request that just don't depend on this last minute suggestion. You should also self prepare yourself, read other books, study materials, whatever you have. So that will make you more concrete. That will give you more confidence because self preparation is always a better choice. Okay guys, like MCO 07 पे there are as many as 26 videos and including this video I'll be making 27th video. So बहुत सारे videos हैं, मैंने unit wise MCO 07 के videos बनाए हुए हैं and you will get that that full playlist. Just see that on the right of your screen you will see a link. Just tap that link, that will take you to my playlist. Please watch that because unit wise मैंने वहाँ पे explain किया है और एक बार आप उसको अच्छे से सारे units को अगर आप एक बार देख लेते हैं, I don't think you will be having any problems in the exams. Okay, so for a quick revision from the first unit, financial management. As we know, financial management is concerned with management of funds and how the company manages its funds. So basically, it depends on the nature of the firm, and in this nature, we have three important decisions that are taken by a company. First, investment decisions, where to invest the fund. Then financial decisions, how to procure funds, how much to procure funds. So that are financial decisions, and dividend decisions. Like dividends, because dividend is the reward of shareholders or stakeholders. So how much dividend is to be distributed. So these three are the key decisions taken by a financial manager. Basic functions of a financial manager. And here I've written a little bit more about the role and functions of a financial manager. Firstly, he will estimate how much fund is required. Then what should be the appropriate capital structure. Now this is very important one. And third one is the allocation of funds. How to distribute the funds among the different divisions and departments of a company. And what will be the rate of interest and rate of return on the investments. So how much dividends is to be paid. So you can write this and this. So that will make up all the important functions of a financial manager. Next concept is what is this basic valuation model. Whenever we invest money in a project or any venture, so what we expect? We expect return. So what will be the expected return? So that is all about this basic valuation model, and it is the value of an asset which will be equal to the present value of its future expected cash flows, right? So to calculate this present value, which is V0, CF stands for cash flows, and this is the formula that we use to find the present value of the future investment or future cash flows. So this is CF divided by 1 plus I whole to the power of n. Now n stands for number of years. Sometimes there are projects where lump sum amount हम लोग investment नहीं करके every year कुछ ना कुछ amount हम लोग invest करते हैं. तो वहां पे क्या हो जाएगा, जैसे for the first year ये rate आपको time को change करना है. This may be like CF1, then CF2 again 1 plus I to the power of 2. This is for the second year. And again like that, this is for the third year, so on. So we use this formula. इसके ऊपर आपको न्यूमेरिकल भी मिलता है, तो यही फॉर्मूला आपको यूज करना है. यहाँ पे I1 plus I to the power of 1, ये जो वैल्यूज हैं इनकी वैल्यूज आपको क्वेश्चंस में नीचे that will be provided in the question. And if not given, you can ask the examiner to provide you with the annuity table, जहां से ये value आपको you can derive it easily. Question आपको करना चाहिए, and that is about risk. We know, like sometimes you get a question like how risk and return trade off. So basically इसका आंसर यही है कि where there is risk there is return. More the risk, more will be the return. If you are unable to take risk, you will be earning less. That is the main funda of financial management, the risk and return relationship. So based on that, we can divide there are different types of risk. And basically in financial management, we can divide the risk into two types: systematic risk and unsystematic risk. Systematic risk, it arises due to external factors which are not under the control of a business enterprise. Like for example, change in the political situation, change in the economic policy, change in the international situations or conditions. So here, enterprise is helpless. It can't do anything about this. And when we talk about unsystematic risk, it is controllable risk. It happens inside the organization. The management can control this type of risk, like for example, equipment failure or labor strike. So in that case, the company can apply its strategies to solve this risk, right? So it's a very common question. बहुत बार एग्जाम्स में आता है. So revise this properly. Friends, now this topic is also very important one. Capital budgeting. And as the name implies, capital budgeting, where when a company takes a new project or try to renovate its existing project. So whatever the funds that are being allocated, so they are all studied in this concept. So before we proceed, you should read about the different processes of capital budgeting. The first one, the idea comes to the mind that yes, we have to take off this project. We will work on this project. So that is called idea generation. Then we will estimate the expected cash flows or investment in that project. Then we will select the project. And lastly, we will try to execute that project. So these are the different steps of capital budgeting. Then there are different types of the projects which are undertaken by a company. Firstly, it can take up a new project. It can expand the existing project. So for that also it needs funds. Then for the renewal of the existing project, for innovation, then also it requires funds. So that is a part of capital budgeting. It can improve the R&D, that is the resource and development, through training or providing latest technology. So in that also company can invest more funds. Then if a company takes up the exploration project, like mining or any such activities where exploration work is involved, so that also requires huge investment. So these are the different types of project, and this is the most important topic of this chapter, the method of capital budgeting. Basically there are three methods. This is the first one, payback method. Number two, ARR, accounting rate of return. ये सबसे important है. Short notes में भी आता है, long questions में 6 marks, 10 marks, इसको बहुत अच्छे से करें please. And then discounted payback. तो इस तरीके से we can use three methods in capital budgeting to find out whether we should take up the project or not. Sometimes you get a numerical also in this chapter. So it's going to be very, very important one. Do revise this unit. आगे चलते हैं. Next question है methods of investment appraisal. How to appraise an investment? If you are going to invest, how what are the criteria or essentials or what type of calculations that you are going to make before making an investment? So as far as the company is concerned, it uses these three methods. First is NPV, net present value method. This is PI, that is profit index method, and IRR, that is internal rate of return. So these are the three popular methods. And here in NPV, if the cash inflow is more than cash outflow, then project should be accepted. Project should be accepted. if the inflow of cash is greater than the outflow of cash. That is obvious. In PI, actually it is a ratio of inflow, ratio of outflow. Now, if the ratio is greater than 1, if the ratio is greater than 1, then the project should be accepted. And if it is less than 1, it should not be accepted because the company will incur ultimately loss. And when we talk about IRR in very short, basically there is a element here, this discount rate. Basically this method is it is related with NPV. So in NPV we generally calculate the discounted rate of the cash flows. So here also we are doing the same, and this discount rate is always it is directly proportional to NPV, that is net present value, right? If this IRR is greater than discount rate, then you should accept the project. If IRR is less than the discount rate, the project should be rejected. So this is how you can learn, and then you can expand your answers on the basis of this idea, right? Next topic is the sources of long-term finance. This is also a very common question. जितना मैंने देखा है पिछले साल previous to previous years काफी टाइम एग्जाम्स में आया है कि हाउ ए कंपनी रेजेस फंड्स, बिकॉज बिना फंड के कंपनी कैसे चलेगी, इट नीड्स फंड्स, सो हाउ इट कैन रेज, व्हाट आर द सोर्सेस. सो ये कुछ सोर्सेस मैंने यहाँ पे लिखे हुए हैं, जाने पहचाने सोर्सेस हैं, यू नो अबाउट देम. जैसे यहाँ पे रिटेन्ड अर्निंग्स बेसिकली इट रिफर्स टू द प्रॉफिट ऑफ ए कंपनी. व्हेनेवर ए कंपनी मेक्स प्रॉफिट, it keeps aside a part of its profit as reserve, surplus or retained earnings. Now it can utilize that funds for investment, for its growth and expansion. So it's a very important source of long-term finance. Then comes equity share capital. It can issue public subscription, equity share capital, where people will buy those shares and that money will be utilized by the company. Then comes preference share capital. That is also same like equity, not much difference. Then it can issue debentures. So it is a debt given to the company, right? So here also company can raise funds from the public. Then comes term loans. It can raise funds from banks, financial institutions or any such organizations. And lastly, venture capital. So these are the major sources which you can define in length, because you know about them, not a new concept. Then comes issue of IPO. Whenever the company issues its new shares, or in other words you can say whenever a new company starts to issue shares, in what ways it can sell its shares. So I have written here, like firstly is the direct sale to the public. It will issue the IPOs. Then secondly is sale through the firms. There are professional firms of underwriters or promoters, and it can it can sell through these firms. Even there are professional brokers through which it can sell its shares. Then comes auction. It can make an auction. बोली लगा सकते हैं कि yes, I've got this much of shares, and who are the bidders who are ready to accept at this price. Then comes transfer of shares, like the company, if the company is older one, so like already it has issued shares previously, it can transfer a part of its new share to the existing shareholders. So that is also a good source. Then comes capital market. Now we have discussed this concept in I think MCO 04. So do watch that videos also, because I gave you the last minute suggestion on capital market, money market, then primary and secondary market, stock exchange, its functions, and SEBI. So all these, these are known to you. You have already revised these chapters while doing MCO 04. So that will not hurt you a bit, right? Let's see what are the important topics that are waiting for you from lease financing. Lease financing, again, a very important concept in financial management, and you should study about what is lease financing, what are the differences between lease financing and hire purchase. As we know that lease financing is a contract It is an agreement where the leaser, that means the owner of the asset, he gives the asset on rent. In simple words, on rent to the leasee. The leasee will use that asset and will pay the rent regularly, which is called lease. बहुत ही एकदम साधारण भाषा में हम लोग बोलते हैं लीज मतलब रेंट। आपने कंपनी बहुत बड़ी मशीन उसको परचेज करनी है करोड्स ऑफ रुपीज, सो इंस्टेड ऑफ investing 1 crore at one time, it is better to take the machine if available on lease. तो लीज में अगर ले लिया, then a company can after executing the project, it can give that machine back to the leaser and usko just regularly, monthly or yearly or half yearly, it has to pay the lease, the rent. That's all. So that is lease financing, very important one. So you should study this. Then comes what are the different types of lease that are undertaken. The first one is a fixed lease, where a type of fixed assets are given on lease. This is operating lease, where the operating functions, it helps. This type of lease help in the day-to-day functions of a company. Then comes direct lease. You can directly give lease any your asset, your machine, whatever it is, and then sale and lease back. So that means the leasee can again give that asset on rent to some other. So that is called sublease, right? So these are the 4 different types of lease, and you should also study about the merits and demerits of lease financing, right? In fact, we can write this from our own senses also, because now like you must have understood कि भाई lease financing होती क्या है, तो इसके merits और demerits ऐसे सोच के हम लोग काफी points लिख सकते हैं, है ना? Friends, next chapter है theories of capital structure. Now ये chapter थोड़ा सा complicated है, यहाँ पे आपको समझना पड़ेगा, and यहाँ पे basically there are 4 theories जो आपके syllabus में है. Firstly, NOI, that is net operating income approach. This is traditional approach. This is net income approach, and this is proposition, that is Miller-Modigliani proposition. तो ये 4 theories हैं capital structure की. ये सारी theories के every law, every theory has certain assumptions. तो assumptions को आपको याद रखना है, हालांकि सभी में एक जैसे ही हैं, right? जैसे कि the investor is rational, there is perfect competition, right? There are no transaction cost, तो like that. Okay, सबसे पहले बात करते हैं NOI, Net Operating Income Approach. Now ये क्या है? Actually यहाँ पे here increase in the value of by decrease in the cost of capital. Now यहाँ से आपको समझ में नहीं आएगा. In simple words, a firm can increase its value by decreasing the cost of capital. This is the main base of this theory, and basically this cost of capital is calculated by the method WACC, that is weighted average cost of capital. Now इसको निकालने के लिए we generally use this formula ROI, that is rate of return, into equity capital plus debt capital whole divided by equity plus debt capital. So this is one particular formula we use to find the cost of capital by using WACC. And यहाँ पे आपको ध्यान में रखना है कि कोई भी फर्म वो अपनी वैल्यू को इंक्रीज कर सकती है अगर वो उसकी कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल अगर डिक्रीज होती है, ठीक है? ओके, ट्रेडिशनल अप्रोच में according to this approach there should be a good balance between equity capital and debt capital. Let me brief you. A company has 2 options. वो either equity capital से पैसे रेज कर सकती है, otherwise debt capital. And हम लोग आगे करेंगे इसके बारे में NI approach में, that यहाँ पे traditional approach में तो equity और debt capital like as per the convenience of the organization, it can make a balance कि भाई equity share से इतने पैसे लेने हैं और इकट्ठे करने हैं, and from debt capital we have to collect this much of funding, right? In NI approach, now according to this approach, a company should raise money through debt capital rather than equity capital, क्योंकि debt capital में pressure कम होता है कंपनी के ऊपर, उसकी जो रिकवरी पीरियड्स हैं, जो उसको इंटरेस्ट देना होता है, दैट इज लेसर देन व्हाट द कंपनी पेज टू द इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स. सो इसीलिए जितनी भी बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज हैं, दे ऑलवेज टारगेट डेट कैपिटल, दैट इज डिबेंचर्स, बॉन्ड्स. यहां से ये लोग ज्यादा पैसा ऑलवेज रेज करना पसंद करते हैं, राइट? सो दैट इज ऑल अबाउट एनआई अप्रोच. नाउ व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट मिलर एंड दिस थिंग, Modi Miller proposition, Modigliani proposition. Now there are two parts of this theory, that is MM1, MM2. MM1, they have assumed that there are no taxes the company is going to pay, and in proposition 2 they have assumed that the company has to pay corporate taxes. Okay, तो ये तो चीज आपको यहाँ तक समझ में आ गई. Now ये सेंटेंस आपको याद रखना है. व्हेन यू विल डिफाइन MM1, द वैल्यू ऑफ द लिवर्ड फर्म इज इक्वल टू वैल्यू ऑफ अनलिवर्ड फर्म, बिकॉज एंड हियर आल्सो इट इज अज्यूम्ड दैट देयर आर नो टैक्सेस, राइट? सो ये आपको ध्यान से रखना है. एंड विद टैक्सेस में नाउ यहाँ पे कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल इज डायरेक्टली प्रोपोर्शनल टू कॉस्ट ऑफ लिवरेज. लिवरेज मीन्स यूजिंग द फिक्स्ड एसेट्स और फंड्स so that the return on the investment will be maximum. Like for example, equity shareholders, उन्होंने investment किया, what they expect, they expect return. ठीक है, तो वो return जितना अच्छा होगा, leverage उतना अच्छा होता है, in simple words. So it is so simple. Then ये जो leverage है, this leverage can be increased by raising through this thing, debt capital and not equity capital. As I told you just now कि debt capital में pressure कम होता है, वहां पे obligations कम होते हैं, and that is more cheaper and convenient rather than raising money through public issues, right? Okay guys, the next question बहुत ही popular question है in fact of financial management. Why do firms pay dividends? Dividends companies क्यों payment करती है? First, investors like dividends. There is a tendency of the investors when they receive, जैसे बोलते हैं ना कि भाई मूल से ज्यादा ब्याज प्यारा लगता है, तो सेम चीज डिविडेंड लेना इन्वेस्टर्स को बहुत अच्छा लगता है, राइट? दे लाइक दैट. देन इट इंक्रीजेस द डेट रेशियो. एज वी नो दैट डेट इक्विटी रेशियो, दैट मींस डेट बाय इक्विटी. तो यहाँ पे अगर रेगुलर डिविडेंड पेमेंट करती है कंपनी, तो ये रेशियो और भी अच्छा वेल बैलेंस रहता है. Then comes it, the company can win the confidence of investors. They will think that okay, the company is steadily growing, we should invest more funds in this company. So ये confidence बहुत important है. Then it increases the market value of the shares of the company. That's a very good sign. And if like it has been observed that the companies which are paying dividends regularly, their market value is consistently increasing, right? And then comes growth opportunities, because it also makes an impression that company, if the company is paying dividend, that means it is growing, it has more growth opportunities, right? So it is making more profits. Then it also increases the goodwill reputation of the company. And this dividend, as far as India is concerned, it is for some people it is a source of income. They are not doing anything, they are only investing in the stock market, and वहां से उनका घर चलता है. Working capital, as we know, working capital is the capital required to meet the day-to-day expenses of the company. That means the working of the company. That's why its name is working capital. These two questions you should revise from this. Like factors which affect the working capital requirement. How much working capital is required, that depends on many factors. What are those? The first one is nature of business. What is the nature of business? Whether the company is a manufacturing company or it is a trading company. For a manufacturing company, it needs more working capital than a trading company. Then comes scale of business. What is the scale? Whether it is a small scale business or a large scale business. So on that basis you can write. Then comes methods of production, whether it is labor intensive or whether it is capital intensive. In capital intensive you need more capital, in labor intensive you need less capital, so like that. Then technology, if the company is using latest technology, it needs more capital because its maintenance, then training of the professional people who will operate those machines, so like that. Then what is the growth prospect of the company? If there are positive growth opportunities available for the company, it will always search for funds and invest that into those ventures. Okay, and like what are the sources or methods from where the company can raise working capital? I have written here, there are five. One is trade credit. You know, the suppliers of raw materials or whatever it is. So it can take credit from there. होता है, you know, बिजनेस में क्रेडिट मिलती है तो क्रेडिट को एक्सपेंड कर सकते हैं. वही यहाँ पे सेकंड पॉइंट मैंने लिखा हुआ है, स्ट्रेचिंग ऑफ अकाउंट पेबल्स. जो अकाउंट आपको मतलब जो पेमेंट करने हैं, जैसे मान लो आपको सप्लायर अगर 1 मंथ की क्रेडिट दे रहा है तो उसको रिक्वेस्ट करें कंपनी कि यस प्लीज मेक इट 45 days और 2 months. तो वहां से यू नो कंपनी विल गेट enough time to reinvest its sales proceeds. Then comes commercial paper. This is also a very good source of raising short-term finance. Bank credit like overdrafts, bills of exchange. I mean discounting of bills of exchange. So a company can work on that. And lastly, loans. You can take trade loans, loans from the banks, short-term loans for 1 year or less than that. नेक्स्ट है कॉन्सेप्ट कैश मैनेजमेंट का. एंड यहाँ से आपको बिल्कुल नहीं भूलना है ये 3 टॉपिक्स: ऑब्जेक्टिव्स ऑफ कैश मैनेजमेंट, व्हाट आर द फंक्शंस ऑफ कैश मैनेजमेंट, एंड व्हाट आर द टेक्निक्स और मेथड्स ऑफ मैनेजिंग कैश. एंड इन ऑब्जेक्टिव्स यू कैन एक्सपैंड दिस पॉइंट्स like cash management is done for working capital requirement to find out what is the working capital required and how to use that fund. Then capital expenditure. To meet the capital expenditure, you need to have a good cash management. Then if there are any uncertain or unexpected expenses, so that can also be met by proper cash management. Then you can utilize the cash flows in a better way with proper cash management techniques. And you can also avoid insolvency. Insolvency where the firm is become bankruptcy. So it can avoid that. More or less these functions are all related to objectives only. Like the first function is to invest the idle cash. Never let your cash store in the treasury. Try to invest those cash. Then to have a good control over cash flows, because cash आता है जाता है and उसको अच्छे से manage करना, that is very important. Then planning cash management. Whatever, like how to allocate the funds, how to from what sources we can procure funds. So all that sorts of things come under planning of cash. Then optimum utilization of cash. Okay, now comes methods, like by what techniques and methods we can do a proper cash management. First, account receivables. When we sell our goods on credit, I mean debtors, तो वहां से debtors को थोड़ा सा और strictly करके उनको जो like the credit period can be shortened. तो वहां से we will get enough time to manage cash. Account payables इसको stretch करना है, ठीक है. Longer the account payable period, less will be the pressure. Then comes managing cash flows. Cash inflow, cash outflow, इसको manage करना. So that is one method. And upgrading the technology so that you have good licensing with banks and other financial institutions regarding the cash. बहुत है. And आपको ये सब भी कुछ और टॉपिक्स हैं जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हैं, आपको करने चाहिए. And the first one is techniques of inventory management. One of the most important topic, जहाँ पे EOQ, ROL, ABC and Z जैसे 4 टेक्निक्स हैं. चारों के बारे में आपको अच्छे से पढ़ना है, स्पेशली दिस EOQ, ABC एंड Z. इन पे क्वेश्चंस बार बार एग्जाम्स में आता है, शॉर्ट नोट्स में भी आता है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. एंड इसके ऊपर मैंने पूरा यूनिट वाइज वीडियो बनाया हुआ है. एंड इसके लिंक आपको जो वीडियो के राइट हैंड साइड में जो आप देख रहे हो, तो वहां पे आप क्लिक करें, दैट विल टेक यू टू माय प्लेलिस्ट. तो वो पूरी की पूरी यूनिट वाइज प्लेलिस्ट यू शुड वॉच दैट. You will get a great help from those playlists. Then comes, you should study about objectives of credit policy, factoring, यहाँ से शॉर्ट नोट्स आपको मिल सकता है, सिक्योरिटाइजेशन से मिल सकता है, एंड लास्टली लास्ट बट नॉट द लिस्ट न्यूमेरिकल्स। ज्यादा नहीं है न्यूमेरिकल्स, लेकिन यू कैन एक्सपेक्ट 2 or 3 न्यूमेरिकल्स from MCO 07, and I have explained all these numericals many times in my previous videos. Okay, so as because कि भाई ये वीडियो का लेंथ काफी लंबा हो जाएगा, so I will make it short and try to revise from the previous videos also apart from this video. So thank you very much for watching. A very best of luck for the exams.